This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Yeah, Frank here, he's got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's what do you call it, Kramer?
It's a billiard room.
No.
The name.
The billiard. Not the billiards. It was. Come on, Rudy.
What?
Come on. We call it the
place to be.
The place to be. Yes, it's the place to be.
Then I shall be there.
This is the place to be here tonight.
Time to play the game.
Party people in the place to be. It's about that time.
Place to Be Nation, Scott Criscola and Justin Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
Very nice, Mr. Crisbola. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
I think they might hit shock wall.
Actually, it's being John Akiyama is a better version of it.
What do you think, Woodley? You can finally tell Grant Owens you found new music.
I'll tell you what, I am impressed.
Sharon Lois Bram? Skidaberinky Dinky Dink?
Yeah.
Skidaberinky Doo?
Hey, Nate, man, this is pretty much a highlight of my life right now. I had no idea you were going to be here. I've wanted to drive that freaking hoe train of my whole youth. You're the man.
And I thought he meant Nate Milton, the Godfather from Kings of Sport. Do you really think that's the Godfather?
Yeah, I did.
All you have to do is break out that fuck money.
I ate the pot. Shut your mouth, you scrappy Canadian.
That's a bit much. You who murdered the dog with the sword, and I'm being a little too much.
Yeah, I like big dick myself. I was just curious. 5 years! 5 years! We've been doing podcasts. And we have this. This is trash.
To do worse than Josh Richard?
Mamacita, don't miss our Santa Claus. Oh, where is Santa Claus? It's Christmas Eve. I know that I should be sleeping, but maybe he's not far away. So out of the window I'm peeping.
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to the great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Rosero. I can reach you here on this Monday evening. And with me is my PIC who made an impromptu trip here to Rhode Island this past weekend. That's Mr. Scott Criscolo. How are you, sir?
Good evening, JR. Good evening, Place to Be Nation. Welcome to episode 429 of the Mothership, the Gulf Standard. And yeah, it was a nice little hop and a jaunt to the old man cave. Mm-hmm. You had a very special guest this weekend.
Yeah, we had a
trolling through in his world tour.
Good old Will from Texas was here for a couple of days and took him around town. We were on possibly on national TV. We'll see. Took him to Boneheads. Took him around Providence, and then of course you and Mr. McGinn came in. We watched some wrestling. My one memory from the weekend will be laying on the couch watching Japanese wrestling as Will stomps around and paces maniacally with it alternating between really warm from the heater and really fucking cold from him keep opening the door to vape. So like I just remember this, like my whole image of this weekend is this like roaring wind blowing in through the door as he was going out there to hit his vape as we're watching the matches. So, but
yeah.
Anyway, it was a great time. It was a lot of fun. And it sounds like you make it a little slight dose of Will to continue your his trip here.
Yes, he's going to, as he's heading down to, I think he's going to Virginia or Maryland. He's actually going to make a quick pit stop here to this man cave, Studio B, tomorrow night for a quick little haunt. So, yeah, it was good to hang out with Will. We had our, the usual Triple H sucks, no, you suck in the car, but that's all right. I expected that. And we watched some good stuff, some interesting stuff. We had some great one-liners from McGinn, who now can never speak again because he'll never be that funny again.
Never.
And, but anyway, JR. It was good to see you, as always. Tonight, though,
yes,
back to our home office, as we are on the precipice of WrestleMania 1. For tonight, we're going to dive only a couple of weeks before the show. Kind of a funky circumstance here for the WWF at Madison Square Garden, because on a rare evening, or actually afternoon in this case, they're actually not on a Monday. They're on a Sunday. So tonight, inside the Vintage Vault, we take you back to March 17th, 1985. 2 weeks, 14 days before WrestleMania 1. And we'll get into the circumstances of why it was on a Sunday and the crazy day in terms of some of these guys having to hop around from one city to another. But again, your date, March 17th, 1985, from Madison Square Garden. St. Patrick's Day, which a certain great awesome heel references in his segment later in the show. He kind of rips into the Irish. The official crowd, 18,700, which means I don't think they were at the Felt Forum, because that's pretty much the capacity of the Garden proper. So I don't think the Felt Forum or the theater was used that day. So, and your announcers, as usual, Gorilla Monsoon and Mean Gene Okerlund. Give us Report Les Sultans.
All right, here we go. A little championship roll call. Our WWE champion, or WWF, so used to WWE, WWF champion Hulk Hogan, 419 days into his reign. Greg Valentine, $174 as IC champion. Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, 55 days into their reign. And Lanny Kai, 27 days into her reign. And, of course, no new champions since we last recorded. In attendance, like you mentioned, 18,700. Now, Scott, like you said, it was kind of an interesting day here because we had multiple shows going on March 17th, 1985. We had this show here, the afternoon matinee at MSG, and then the same crew, No,
they split up.
They split up, yeah. So half the crew went over to Minneapolis for the evening show. And the other half went down to Philly.
Yeah.
Do you want anything that stands out to you on these cards?
Well, let's see. Half this crew flew across the country, a couple thousand miles, I guess, to the Met Center in Minneapolis, 5,500. Bret Hart, Buddy Rose to a draw. SD Jones wrestled twice. He lost to Jim Neidhart and Ken Patera. Speaking of Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, they beat the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. Interesting combination. Ivan Putski beat Rene Goulet, and Jesse actually beat Hogan by countout. So,
makes sense in his hometown. Get the hometown pop.
Yeah, exactly. I guarantee Hogan wore the blue combo that night. Then the other evening, down 95, I'm sure Mean Gene and Gorilla did a pit stop to have a little of the Joy Juice. They went to the Spectrum. They both did. Actually, Mean Gene probably stayed at Atlantic City because Gorilla Monsoon did it with Dick Graham, poor bastard. Rocky Johnson beat Moondog Spot. Tito Santana beat Mr. X. Don Morocco beat the Cobra. King Kong Bundy beat Sweeter. Big shock. Jimmy Snuka and Roddy Piper fought to a double countout. Ricky Steamboat beat Matt Bourne. Greg Valentine pinned the Junkyard Dog. And the main event, Bruno and David Sammartino beat Paul Orndorff and Bobby Heenan in a lumberjack match. So that was the evening card at the Spectrum.
So New York City to Minneapolis is an 18-and-a-half-hour drive. It's 1,204 miles, about just under a 3-hour flight.
Wow.
So I'm guessing they flew.
Yes. Yeah, I would think so, yes.
So, yeah, it must have been kind of tight turnaround. Oh, you forget the matinee is what, noon usually started? Or was it 1?
Yeah. No, it was probably noon or 12:30, which means this show probably ended about, 2:30, probably 2:45.
Yeah.
So if they had to be there by like 8.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
obviously not a big show, not a long show at the Met Center, so.
Right. And maybe a couple guys were maybe already there or something. So, anyway.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. That's it for Sutton.
All right. Okay. So let's go back into the Garden. And later on in the show, I will give you another reason in our pop culture report why the WWF had to have a matinee and not a evening show. I'll explain that a little bit later. First off, let's dive into the show proper. Let's begin with our opener, JR. Our first jobber, actually 2 debuts for us here. A jobber that, I always thought he looked more like an NWA guy. Taking on somebody who, a popular wrestler, but for the future be known for his jeans, if you will. Who was in our opener?
His mom jeans. We have, first off, Charlie Fulton, who graduated from high school in Ohio in 1967, went to learn professional wrestling outside Detroit under Lou Klein. Debuted in March 68, wrestled a couple dozen matches before being drafted to the Army, serving 2 years, including some time in Vietnam. After coming back stateside, he picked up wrestling in Amarillo with the Funks and hitting other NWA territories, including Mid-Atlantic and Charlotte and Florida. For the most part, Fulton was a jobber to the stars, working with and training new talents who'd go on to become bigger stars. Heart issues in 1983 made big changes to his career, and even though he continued to wrestle throughout the mid-'80s, 2 of Fulton's best-known talents were that he trained Raven and Wildcat Chris Harris, and Fulton would pass away just this year, March 12, 2016. So, long run for good old Chaz. Born Wade Douglas Bowles, son of Todd, Nova Scotia, Canada. Rocky
bastard.
Johnson would become people... both due to his own career and known to people due to his own career and the career of his son, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Bowles began at age 16 training to be a boxer, sparring with the likes of Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. Of wrestling has always intrigued him. And so he began training under Peter Maivia before making his debut in mid-1960. Shortly after his debut, he legally changed his name to Rocky Johnson. In the 1970s, Johnson was a top contender to the world title, receiving matches against Terry Funk and Harley Race. However, most of Johnson's success came as a tag team wrestler, winning several regional titles before signing with the WWF in 1983. Paired with Tony Atlas as one half of the Soul Patrol, and the team would make history as the first black WWF tag team champions on November 15th, 1983, retired in 1991, and inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2008. So, we get a big pop for Rocky to open the show. Gorilla notes that Fulton has, Scott?
Bulked up.
Put on some weight. So, off to a good start as always. It's like he can't wait to get it out. You know what I mean? It's like we're barely getting going. He's going to like, blah, he's bulked up. You know, it's like he can't even take a breath. He's going to say it. So after some feeling out, Rocky hooks a head scissors as Gorilla dissects the art of cauliflower ears. Gorilla and Gene then discuss how Rocky has put on weight, but it's well distributed. Rocky starts to unleash his quick strike offense and swift foot movement. Gorilla notes that he's coming off a big tour of Asia. Fulton catches Johnson and turns the tide, stomping away in the corner. They eventually fight out toward the rope, and Johnson gets a quick sunset flip to grab the win. Really nothing going on here at all. Basically a squash, but the crowd really loved Rocky. And one of my favorite line of the night, and maybe since we've started this thing, Gene says, "That would jar your mother's preserves," when he knocked out Fulton. So that was...
Yes.
That was a great line.
Yes,
Makes no fucking sense.
No.
I went dud on this. But I thought it was a good enough opener. Like, they kind of eschewed the longer opener and just kind of had a quick squash out there to get the crowd kind of fired up before getting into that standard match they'd have. So only 351 on that one.
Yes. Yeah. I was. I think they were trying to preserve a lot of time on the window for the later stuff. So
your mother's preserves?
My mother's preserves. I don't think they wanted to waste time early because they had a lot of stuff late. So they decided to just blow off, just get rid of it. Did you notice early on, JR, what Gorilla called Rocky Johnson at one point?
The Rock?
He did call him The Rock. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And number two, like I said, and it was pretty, cut and dry. I'll be nice. I'll throw a bone and say a half star. Just for the effort.
Kind soul.
And... Yeah, I know. And but Charlie Fulton's
widow listening to this is smiling ear to ear.
Yes. Charlie Fulton just had that NWA guy though with the beard and the long blonde hair. Like he looked more like he'd fit getting beat up by Magnum TA. Well, he looked like Magnum TA.
He looked more like a guy who'd be collecting money at a church.
Like some Episcopal church in the late 80s. So Charlie Fulton does not get the win. Rocky Johnson does. Soul Man.
What'd you think of Rocky's charisma showing in here? Because I don't know how much he had been around because we haven't seen him yet. So I don't know if he really was on that tour of Asia. It looks like, he was pretty much gone from the beginning of the year. He had a match in February at Enfield, Connecticut. So it looks like maybe he was out a little bit at the beginning of the year. So,
right.
But anyway, it seems like the crowd really loved him, and he had that. You can kind of see where The Rock got it from, I guess what I'm saying, because Rocky Johnson, while not on the level of The Rock, definitely had that connection with the crowd, and it shows here.
It definitely did. And, he had a little bit of juice from back, of course, when he, when him and Tony Atlas were the tag champs. So the crowd was into him, and, depending on what the era was, he could have been a solid IC contender probably, or, he was loyal to Vince Sr. I think and he's one of those guys that probably kind of was a holdover. I think you'll see a lot of those guys as we continue with the house shows in 85. I think we're going to see some guys pop up that were very Vince Sr. loyalists. Guys that we would say were Vince Jr. loyalists in like 92, like Tito and those kind of guys. There's Vince Sr. loyalists, like when we see these house shows in 85 and 86 that Vince Jr. kept around, even though he wasn't the guys they were going to push. And I think Rocky Johnson was one of them.
Do you think looking at like the card and the build for Mania, is he a guy that could have fit in somewhere? I mean, he's a good name value. The crowd obviously loved him in MSG. I guess maybe we can dissect the card more next week when we get to WrestleMania. But it seems like maybe because he hadn't been around, they didn't have a spot for him. But he seems like a guy that could have really gotten the crowd revved up.
Yeah, well, there's a few guys that are on that are on this card that is going to scratch our heads as to why they're not back 2 weeks later when they're involved in gigantic storylines. And you know what match I'm talking about. We'll get to it in a little bit. I mean, you could have put Rocky Johnson anywhere. Maybe you put I don't know. Maybe have him against the Executioner, and maybe have Tito in a tag with something. I don't know. You could have put him somewhere, or even expand the show. I mean, it's it's not like the Garden had anything else going on that night. So yeah, he's a guy that definitely could have jazzed up that crowd big time. But I'm perplexed as to why he didn't stick around. Again, I wonder if it was just because he was a Vince Senior loyalist and Vince Jr.
I mean, it's been that he was just not around and whatever.
So anyway,
didn't have anything going on.
But he gets a win here over Charlie Fulton, and as you said, about 351.
This
next one is
Chase Marshall.
This match is a little bizarre for some reason. I don't know why, but I guess there's this brand new, fresh newcomer on the scene, JR, taking on one of our own old house show stalwarts. Tell us who we have here.
Well, we have René Goulet, our good old French pal, and he's taking on Barry O, also known as Barry Orton, Randall Barry Orton, better known as Barry O, brother to Bob Orton Jr. Barry O made his debut in 1976, spent 1984 to 1988 in the WWF when the Pat Patterson-Terry Garvin sex scandal broke out in 1992. Barry came forward with his experiences with Garvin dating back to 78 and supporting stories told by some of the ring boys against Garvin. He appeared on an episode of Phil Donahue when they were discussing sexual harassment in the wrestling industry, and due to his vocal opinions in the WWE or WWF, he became blacklisted in the world of wrestling. He, along with his brother, helped train Randy Orton in his pursuits to become a wrestler. There you go. So this match. Gene and Gorilla discussed what the O could possibly stand for as we get underway. Barry does not, and based on his accusations, could have meant the big O. Barry does not have a good look at all, I thought. At all. Goulet is clean-shaven, for once. Doesn't put on his glove to start. Gene and Gorilla start to promote WrestleMania heavily during this match as they tussle on the mat, trade some holds. Barry works a head scissors as the talk turns to the Mania main event, putting over Mr. T and Hulk Hogan's training regiments. Barry keeps working the head until Goulet punches his way back into things. Gene confirms that Bob Orton has a broken forearm, as we saw last month. Goulet goes back to the claw hold and locks that in for a bit, as always. But Gorilla notes it's not as effective without that glove. Barry punches out of the hold, hits an awful backdrop, followed by a running body slam for 2. Barry hits a power slam for 2, but Goulet goes to the eyes and grabs a side headlock. Goulet slams Barry and drops a knee, but can't put him away. Barry makes a comeback, but Goulet slugs him down, and then Barry pops up and gets a small package for the win. Again, nothing much going on here. Goulet tried his best to piece this thing together with some cohesion, but Barry was all over the place. I didn't think he was impressive at all. I would argue that Goulet actually deserved a better match on this card. I know Barry O had been around a while. Maybe it was just an off night for him. But I thought he looked all out of sorts in this match, and I didn't think it was that good at all. And Goulet was doing all he could to kind of keep things chugging along. And this one went.
First, I don't know. This one, I got it right here. It went 8:50.
Okay, probably about 8:49 too long, but
I thought it was all right. I didn't think it was anything ridiculously bad. I mean, Barry O looked a lot like Tommy Rich, who we talked a lot about when good old Will was in the other night.
Right.
Big Tommy Rich summations the other night, but because he had that like really platinum hair, he literally looked exactly like Tommy Rich. But I mean, it was all right. It wasn't anything great. I'll be nice again. I'll be the generous one tonight and give a half star.
Come on.
1 star for 2 matches, but I mean, it was all right. I'll give the half star to René Goulet, France's greatest athlete.
Well, yeah, he was at least trying. I mean, yeah, I guess he put the effort in, but
I love how another good Mean Gene line. He goes when Gorilla goes, Gene, where do you think that stinky glove went? Sam Snead's trash compactor. It's like, where does Mean Gene come up with these? It's utterly ridiculous. But I mean, otherwise the match is nothing great. But we will not be see the last time. We will be seeing Mr. O, the big O. Will not be the last time. Maybe his hair will get a little better. His tights get a little better too. Okay. Next up, another match that's pretty horrendous. 2 guys we've already seen, and unfortunately we have to watch them both wrestle each other. Who are they?
Special Delivery Jones. So we'll talk more about his bio next week. He takes on our good buddy Jim the Animal Neidhart. Of course, 2 months after his MSG debut, remember, he was originally managed by Mr. Fuji, the devious one. So I'm on TNT, plotting over how he was going to teach the ways of the dark side to the Anvil, but he's already gone. He's now managed by Jimmy Hart, no relation, of course. Around this time, Bret Hart was getting frustrated with a cowboy gimmick that McMahon had him portraying. Bret went to McMahon and suggested the formation of a tag team with his brother-in-law, Jim Neidhart. And here we are. Bret and Jim team up, and Jimmy Hart's their manager. Were they already brothers-in-law? When did they get married? Oh, they just know each other. Did he meet his wife through this?
I think they were married already. I think they were married in the early 80s when they were still training, or maybe even late 70s.
Did you meet Ellie there?
Yeah, Ellie.
That's rough.
By the way, this is Jimmy Hart's MSG debut.
Yes, it is.
So I think he was on TNT already.
Yeah,
well, he had to have been if he was promoting all these guys. But of course, another guy we saw a lot of the other night with Will, Jimmy Hart.
Right. Oh yeah, all over the place.
Of course, Jimmy Hart was managing the First Family in Memphis. So
there you go. We'll talk more.
He's going to remanage some of these guys over the next few months.
Yeah,
the same guys that were in the First Family are going to be here in the WWF. So
see them all, sir. So Anvil now transitioned, like we said, wearing the full singlet style tights. Nice pop for SD Jones and his throwback Phillies gear. I don't know if you caught that.
Yes, I did.
Gorilla notes that SD is
put on weight.
Yep, he's up to 265 pounds and looks great. Gene discusses Jimmy Hart's music background. He mentions the Gentrys as we get some stalling from the Anvil. SD hits the first big strike, taking Anvil barely over with a hip toss. Gorilla and Gene talk about the big Andre the Giant versus Big John Studd Body Slam challenge at Mania with $15,000 in Andre's career on the line. Jones keeps frustrating Anvil, staying a step ahead of him. Anvil catches him with a body slam, but Jones rolls through and hooks an armbar. Anvil slugs Jones down and takes over, stomping away and choking Jones. Jones lands a stiff left hand, but Anvil fights through it, levies some forearms before grabbing a reverse chinlock. Jones again makes a comeback and kicks into the dinged-up arm of Neidhart and then slugs him in the chin before dropping him with a headbutt. Jones has some great punches, by the way. I thought he threw some really nice jabs. Hart freaks out at ringside, but Neidhart reverses a whip and hits a power slam for the win. And Scott, I didn't mind this match. I thought it was a pretty fun slugfest. They had good timed comebacks, good strategy by both guys. Jones kept working the arm. Anytime Anvil took over, he would target it during a comeback, and then Anvil just kept trusting his power in the key spots and then hit the power slam at the end. Jones' strikes were really good, like I mentioned, and I thought the finish was well executed. I thought this was a perfectly acceptable, solid worked house show match. 1 star. Jim Neidhart, worker of the night so far.
That's sad. I'm going to give this a half star too. I'm just I'm generous enough to not give a full star, but I mean this match is okay. I just hated Jim Neidhart in this brief solo phase. He's just so bad. Yeah, he's just so bad. But SD.
I felt like he got the show off a little bit more, like on the power stuff than he does. And well, I guess we'll see how they develop. But I don't know. I didn't mind him here.
I don't remember. Was SD Jones from? Did they say Philly? Did Fink say Philly, or are they starting to say Antigua in the West Indies?
I'm not sure. I just know he had the Phillies gear. That's about it.
So he must have said Philly then. Well, eventually, by the time we get to real jobber status in like '86, I think they start saying I think maybe.
Well, no, because he says it. I think he says it at Mania.
From Philly or from Antigua in the West Indies?
From Antigua.
Yeah, I think so too.
This match was 6:52, by the way.
Yes. Oh God. Ew.
I didn't think I would take this over either of those two matches we just watched any day.
Oh, it's so disgraceful on the part of you disrespecting the great Rene Goulet, trying to carry that other slug.
Hey, it wasn't Goulet's fault, but
anyway. So all right, so he gets a win in, as you said, in 6:52, which was 6:52 long.
Oh, come on! It wasn't that bad. You like the Haas matches? They really laid into each other. It was good. I don't know. I like Jones' strikes was tight.
I loved it. I love SD Jones. Actually, I've been happy with an SD Jones Rene Goulet match, and then let Barrio and Jim Neidhart sloth each other.
I'm sure we'll get Goulet on this Jones at some point in this run.
I'm sure it'll be an opener at some point in the future. It'll go 17 minutes. All right, so Jim Neidhart gets the win. All right, next up, speaking of Jimmy Hart, he stays out there. And speaking of the First Family in Memphis, we get is this his debut? I don't know if this is probably not his debut. But,
let me say,
But he brings one of his First Family guys to the Garden. Who is it?
That is, sir, King Kong Bundy. He's actually been around throughout the year so far, so this is not his debut. No. But it's the first time we are seeing him. But we'll talk more about him and his bio next week at WrestleMania. But he did debut in the Federation one day. Oh, okay, so apparently he did debut. But he's in Graham has him throughout the thing. Jeff says he debuted one day before this show on Championship Wrestling. And then, of course, going through the AWA and NWA, asked for 5 counts to show just how badly he had beaten his opponent. Here at the beginning of his run, he brings back that 5-count gimmick as well. So, just looking quick, he Okay, hang on. That's a Japan show. Okay, it looked like he worked a lot in Japan, so they must have been doing like joint cards or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is his actual debut here. Bundy's TV debut was in Poughkeepsie on World Championship Wrestling or whatever the hell it is the week before. So there you go.
Yes. Okay.
So the match, sir, like you said, Jimmy Hart back out with Bundy, rocking an awesome cape was Bundy.
And what was that about?
It was just a badass cape. Like that's a guy with confidence that can rock that cape walking around, don't you think?
Oh yeah, it kind of had that very Fritz von Erich-ish feel to it.
I want to see Armento in that cape.
Well, he was in a cape tonight, so I've seen him look like King Kong.
Yeah, he does.
I've seen him in a cape plenty of times, believe me. Not a singlet, thank fucking God.
King Kong Bundy's cape with Vader's heart problems is Anthony Armento. Anyway. All right, so Jose Luis Rivera is back this month. Hopefully it looks a little bit sharper than last time. Bundy's a monster. Gina Gorilla put him over as such, as well as Hart's ability to find these great talents. Bundy hammers away at Rivera to start, giving him no room to breathe before planting him with a back elbow. Bundy tosses Rivera with a one-arm slam and drops a knee to the chest, but picks Rivera up during the count. Crowd is buzzing here as Bundy's just murdering Rivera. Rivera lands a couple of drop kicks, but Bundy shrugs them off, clubs him back down, and squashes him with an avalanche in the corner. Bundy drops an elbow and gets the win with the 5 count. And Scott, I thought this was a fantastic squash. I love the aura of the crowd just oohing and ahhing at Bundy with everything he did, just unleashing havoc. I thought they really booked Bundy like a beast. Like, the announcers are putting him over. The crowd is like just in shock at this murder that's going on of Jose Luis Rivera. And I thought Bundy just owned it. Like, he just beat the piss out of him. And just the atmosphere was really, really cool. You don't get that a lot, where they're just like in awe of what he's doing out there.
He was, that was an amazing MSG debut. He was a beast with a cape and, Jimmy Hart. And, it was tremendous. And kudos to Jose Luis Rivera, because maybe Barry O should have eaten this pin. But it was barely, 2.5, I think, Graham has, let's see. 2.5 minutes. It's really all you needed. You really didn't need to go any further than that. There's really not much more to say. Tremendous squash.
No, booked. Just over. Booked perfectly. You could have asked for anything more in a debut. It was really well executed. And did you get that feel from the crowd? Like, did you just that?
Oh yeah.
Like, what the hell? Like they haven't really seen this. Where this monster's just destroying this guy.
Yeah, we haven't seen. Let's think back a little bit. When was the last time a WWF crowd had a guy that big? Was it really Haystacks Calhoun? I guess so.
Andre, but
Andre kind of, but not really. Stud's in pretty decent shape, so he's not like big like Bundy is, and Andre's in a class by himself. So, I don't think you've seen a guy this big, this intimidating a heel since. I don't know. Haystacks Calhoun was a babyface, so I don't know whether big fat guys in the 70s, but just this guy walking around in this cape, and then you take off the cape, and his fucking mass of humanity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
He just owned the ring was his stage, and he went in and and Jose Luis Rivera, even at this stage, and probably what you've seen in 1984 was a serviceable guy. Yeah, he's jobber, but he usually has decent 9, 10, 11 minute matches. But he's a guy that the crowd knows, and he just got he got mollywopped.
It was worth it. This is his punishment for that awful showing last time.
Yes, yeah, no, yeah. He walked into a buzzsaw here.
It was great. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was my favorite match so far. It was just like you said. He just owned. The presence was unbelievable. So it was really cool. It's worth checking out. I'm glad we get to see it.
Yes, and you're going to see him in 2 weeks. Just based on that debut, he's going to be there in 2 weeks. So.
Oh yeah, you could tell immediately like a star.
Yep. Let's see. We
go backstage
next up. Yes, the backstage, yes.
Where Mean Gene interviews Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Hogan talks about how serious T is and how prepared he is for this huge event. T says he doesn't like talking. He'd rather spend that time working out and preparing. T says Piper and Orndorff are dead meat. So Hogan says they should be training right now, not talking. Hogan apologized to the fans for being rude, but says their focus is solely on preparing. And I thought this was a good promo to Hype Mania.
Oh, no doubt. It's Piper, it's Hogan and T, and they're awesome. So
I love how obsessed they are with working out, though. It's like he mentions it every time he's on. I should be working out right now.
I hate interviews. I hate talking to people. I hate interviews.
Be working out. Got to work out 24/7.
Got to work out. Got to live. Got to practice.
Anyway.
Next up, we have a match that was actually edited from the copy that we watched today, and that is a tag involving a team that you're going to see. I mentioned them later earlier in the show. The team of the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov defeated George Wells and Bret the Hitman Hart in 8:45 when Sheik pinned Wells and his big afro with a elbow drop after a kick to the face.
That aired on primetime. So, interesting. Primetime way after this, a month later.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. That was cut off. I didn't even realize. Because, I noticed that Bret Hart was on that Minneapolis show. So I thought he just was in Minnesota already waiting. But it's interesting. I mean, Volkov and Sheik obviously being prepped for the big tag team title match at Mania. So it was important to have them come out here and pick up a win. So, it was interesting. Weird team, Bret and George Wells.
Yeah, it was very strange. And I don't think George Wells, I don't think he went to either of those shows. He probably got scraped up off the mat and moved on with the rest of his day. So it brings us to our next televised match, which is...
Actually, we're not there yet, sir. We have a big special...
yes. Okay, we're right here, yes.
Very big special moment. Because Howard Finkel comes out and introduces a very special live Piper's Pit. Brings out Roddy Piper and Bob Orton to enormous heat. If you remember, this was announced at our last show. They said there'll be a special Piper's Pit live at this house show. Piper says he couldn't find anyone willing to wrestle tonight, so they have him out here talking instead. Piper discusses St. Patrick's Day, says all the snakes were chased out of Ireland, and they all came here to New York City. Puts over Orton as his bodyguard, trashes New York some more, rips on the Yankees, and then brings out Orndorff after teasing Mr. T. That draws some great heat. Orndorff is fantastic here, arrogantly strutting out and hugging Piper. Piper says his guest will be coming out with chains on, and then Orndorff mimics a gorilla. Piper says he told T there'd be no police or bodyguards out here, and he tells him to stop powdering his nose with dark powder before officially bringing him out. T gets a big ovation, is donned in his full, of course, gold chains. He brings out Mr. Hulk Hogan with him, pissing off Piper and causing MSG to explode. Jimmy Snuka emerges as well. Piper is condescending right from the start. He cleans off T's seat and tells him to sit, but T refuses because he doesn't trust him. Piper gives T a chance to back out of Mania and just go sit home and enjoy his money. T refuses and says he has been training ever since February 18th and has backup to protect him from any cheap shots tonight. T gives Piper a chance to back out and calls him crazy and says he takes cheap shots, but he won't try it tonight. Piper reveals a portrait of T with his arm in a cast that he painted himself, and then he shows a second portrait with T in his leg in a cast, and then the third has him in a full body cast, and then he offers him a chance to back out again. T says he should be training, not out here joking. Piper then puts a T-wig on and talks about how silly it is, and T smacks it off of him. Piper and his crew bail, saying they'll wait till March 31st with the crowd booing. Piper chucks a drink at T, and then they storm off, and T promises the crowd that they'll win on March 31st and do everything it takes because that's all he knows how to do. I thought this was fantastic. Tons of heat. Perfect build-up for Mania. Well executed. I thought it was great that they let T talk a bunch to kind of get him initiated into the feud more. Hogan being out there just added that extra presence. They let T kind of run on his own without Hogan having to carry him. Piper was phenomenal as always too. So again, a great segment, and I wonder if Tony Atlas painted those pictures, Scott. That was what I was curious about. Or Piper did it himself. But.
I'm sure Paul Orndorff is very impressed.
Right.
Unless Paul Orndorff got him from Willie B at the Atlanta Zoo. This segment was fantastic because you've got all the main players. They're all on their game. Piper's just right now just a heat machine right now. I mean, he's just a heat machine. Mm-hmm. That was the first cool, next to the obvious Hot Rod T-shirt, the coolest T-shirt of the mid-'80s was Piper's Black Panther shirt. That shirt's fantastic. What is with Paul Orndorff? Can't he ever dress like normal? No, he's got to have like these ridiculously small fucking tennis shorts, no shirt on.
Got to show off the body, babe.
That's
work
right.
that hard in the gym. You got to work hard, get those gains. You got to show off.
No one said Paul Orndorff was gaining weight. What did they say? What did Gorilla? Why come Gorilla said nothing about Bundy? Remember? Oh, by the way, quick note on the previous match. Gorilla got offended when fucking Gene said, "Oh, he kind of looks like you."
Yeah, right.
Gorilla goes, "That's not my head." How come they didn't say Bundy put on a lot of weight? Anyway, right now Piper's just that's true. Piper's just a heat machine, and Orndorff's awesome. And, I mean, Hogan kind of said... One thing, Hogan didn't really talk much at all, really.
No,
he didn't say anything?
No, and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah.
Because they didn't force it. They didn't have him overshadow T or have to talk for him. I thought it made T look, instead of just kind of riding in on the coattails of Hogan, it made him seem like he was an equal part of the match, like a really big piece of this. Because he hasn't really been involved. I mean, he was at War to settle the score, but this made it feel like T is 50-50. T is looking for revenge just as much. He's not just there to back up Hogan. So I like that they had Hogan just kind of be out there as the muscle to prevent against an attack from Orndorff or Orton. And then you have Snook out there, too. It didn't really do much. So, no, they let T go out there and just sell the match on his own.
No, he absolutely had to. And he was a lot more comfortable than I thought he was going to be. So, I mean, it sold the show. I mean, if you didn't think you were going to buy this card then on closed circuit or get a ticket to go somewhere, then you should have. Then you're out of your mind because I mean this was just fantastic. Snuka's in the ring, and not the last time we'll see Snuka. He's in later.
Right.
Just a tremendous show, a tremendous moment.
Yeah, I mean,
and
just
getting ready for a gigantic main event.
A really well done hard sell. And it made this card special too. You come out on St. Patrick's Day for this matinee, and you got a pit with like the biggest stars in the company and entertainment with T and Hogan. It's like, I mean, we got some big matches coming, but this show, it seems like it's forgotten because it's only 2 weeks before Mania, and it's in between that Mania and the War to settle the score. So it's almost overlooked at times. But when you look at the card, they really jack this thing up. I mean, you could argue it's more loaded than War to settle the score was.
Yeah, I mean, this segment's huge. I mean, you could compare this segment with the Hogan Piper title match and all the chaos with the cops and everything. This is just crazy with the pictures and T all like wrapped up in the hospital bed and everything. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Piper knew how to market it. And Hogan sat back and let T do all the talking. I had enough of this. I don't trust you. I had enough of this. I ain't sitting down. I ain't taking this chair. I mean, he was on a roll. I mean, T was just a machine. I got to give him props for that. I mean, he was great. The whole segment was fantastic. I'm sure this was when the intermission was. We'll do one more match and then we'll take a break. Let's go now to our next match, which yes, he's back.
Big motherfucker! Why don't you back that ass up? Good old Davey Sammartino. He has a big ass. Taking on another man making his debut, Matthew Bourne. We'll talk more about Bourne's background in next week's show. Bourne makes his MSG debut here in a very interesting match. It'd be surprising to me if Sammartino were to lose, Scott, but can you really have Bourne lose in his first match right out of the gate? I mean, are you going to give this guy any kind of build? Bourne slaps Sammartino off the bell. They lock up, feel each other out for a bit. Bourne lands some knees to the head, and then a knee drop before hooking a chin lock as Gene gets horny over a young lady in the crowd. We get some more Mania hype and talk as Bourne is wrenching on the hold. Sammartino breaks free and sends Bourne over with the backdrop, and then grabs a chin lock of his own as Gene and Gorilla criticize him for coming into the match as flat. Bourne gets out of the hold and slugs Sammartino down and chokes away before rolling him into a pin cover with his legs for two. Bourne goes back to a chin lock as the crowd loses interest. Sammartino punches free, but Bourne stops him with a front chancery. Sammartino again fights free and punches and then dodges a charge as Bourne careens into the post. Sammartino has a nice vertical suplex for two and then heads up top, but Bourne catches him and slams him off for a near fall. Sammartino catches Bourne coming in and grabs an inside cradle for the win. I thought it was a weird decision to job Bourne out right away, but, I mean, the Sammartino push is hot and heavy right now, almost as hot and heavy as Gene was when they showed that chick.
Yes.
Match was very boring until the last couple of minutes. Way too many chin locks, no heat or excitement on either end. Like, the crowd just doesn't give a shit about David Sammartino. I mean, he's fundamentally sound, but there's just nothing to get excited about. Like, you look at him, and if his dad's not there, like, what is there to excite you? Unless you're really... What's your real ass man? Like, what is? I mean, really though, what is there? What is there to get you going with David Sammartino? Like, is this blah? And Matt Bourne is better than this. Deserve better than this. You could have put him and Goulet together, maybe. I don't know. And we had a lot of guys that look alike. Him, Goulet, Charlie Fulton. They all look alike. Bourne, like, they all have the same hair.
What if his dad was a doctor? Dr. Bourne? I don't know. He says he's your son. He's your son. I liked Matt Bourne's little outfit there. It was like his little fucking, whatever that thing was, his little vest with the rope around her. What a strange outfit he had on. It was kind of an odd decision. Kind of an odd choice to decide here. I would have had Sammartino against, obviously some other jobber or whatever, but I mean, fundamentally, he's not a bad worker. I mean, he's a decent wrestler, but he's not his dad. I mean, who is?
It doesn't even have to be his dad. He doesn't have to be his dad. I mean, he's just gonna, be SD Jones. like have something. I mean, have something. Like, no one's gonna think he's Bruno. I mean, that's ridiculous. Bruno's like the greatest of all time. I mean, obviously he's not gonna be Bruno, but I mean, bring something to the fucking table. I mean, he just rolls out there, waddles out there with his ass and his fucking high water tights, and really, I mean, doesn't do anything. It's like he's wrestling in. Yeah, you get him all fucking jacked up over his gut. It's just stupid. It's like, I mean, it's like he's out there just putting on an exhibition every time. It's like he's at a training school showing people how to work a match. Like, that's how he feels to me. Like, all right. Now I'm going to do a go behind. Oh, here comes a roll through. Like this just. He just meanders through this basic string of moves with no flow and there's nothing to it. It just goes. Just oh, here comes the suplex. Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I went half a star just because it is fundamentally sound, but it just wasn't. Yeah, I don't know. He does not make my nipples hard, David Sammartino, at all. He's just very bland. And I like a big ass, but this guy. You're not an ass man. Yeah, no.
You're not an ass man. No.
You're a fine motherfucker.
I'm telling you, him and Rick McGraw, they're both like misshapen.
McGraw wishes he had an ass that don't quit like Sammartino does.
No, I mean he looks like a fucking misshapen action figure. I mean that's really what it is.
Apple bottom jeans
and a big butt. Yeah, I feel bad for Matt Bourne here. He deserved a better fate.
Well, never trust a big butt and a smile.
Just a big butt and a smile. So there you go. Poor Matt Bourne. Jobs to the little squat there.
I mean, it made sense to give Sammartino the win heading into Mania, but I just think he could have just had him go over Goulet or something. Let Bourne pick up a win.
Or if they have this feud going on. I mean, this match he has at WrestleMania is not something that just came from scratch.
Right.
I mean, was it something they just thought of in the next 2 weeks? We'll talk more about this next week, but it just made no fucking sense to me whatsoever.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, this huge feud comes and all this chaos ensues when you could have built that up, which would have helped David. Well, we'll get more into it next week. But I mean, they could have done more with him tonight than they did, and Matt Bourne would have had a better fate. So, all right, why don't we take a break?
Okay.
Been a pretty standard show so far, right? Yeah. Nothing crazy. We have 3 matches left, 2 main event level matches, and a big debut, JR, huge debut. An icon of the business debuts in this match as well. But first, let us have some words because
you're a fine motherfucker.
Back that ass.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Voice of Ring of Honor's Kevin Kelly here. I just want to make sure you're all subscribed to all of our great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. Now, it's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search for and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, Place to Be Nation pop feed, Pro Wrestling Only feed, and of course, the Kevin Kelly Show feed, which includes the full archives of my podcast. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And of course, as always, enjoy all the great action of Ring of Honor Wrestling and everything presented to you on PlaceToBeNation.com.
PlaceToBe Nation's JT Rosero here, and I want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com, and we offer them to you across two great feeds. On the PlaceToBe Nation Wrestling feed, you can check out Scott Criscolo and me on the Mothership, the PlaceToBe Podcast, with our famous Vintage Vault pay-per-view reviews. PTB also covers current-day wrestling with the smash hit clotheslines and headlines, our steady veteran main event, and the beloved monthly pay-per-view reaction shows with immediate feedback on all pro wrestling super shows. Relive wrestling's past with our monthly pay-per-view rewind series led by Ben Morse, the always contentious Dangerous Alliance podcast, and Survey Says, a fun look back at the good, bad, and ugly of WCW. On our very popular PlaceToBe Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Rank and File, NBA Team, Lucha Undead, Geek and Sassy, and a veritable podcast heaven for comic fans with hard-traveling fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversation, and Imaginary Stories. Subscribe to both of those feeds on iTunes and rate and leave feedback for us as well. All of these shows, plus others, available at PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus tournaments and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping, and download our free Place to Be Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on the right-hand side of our site. We also want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, TheHistoryOfWrestling.com, and Scott Keats' Blog of Doom. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
The PWO PTBN feed has changed its name. Now it will be known simply as Pro Wrestling Only, so it should be easier to find and indeed to say. All of your favourite shows are still here, including Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Kayfabe, Titans of Wrestling, Tag Teams Back Again, This Week in Wrestling, and many, many more, including our full archives of tremendous content. So make sure you subscribe to the Pro Wrestling Only feed today.
This is the king of old school, Steve Corino, the true voice of Ring of Honor, and you're listening to the Place to Be Podcast.
All right, Nation, we are back. Hope you enjoyed that break, and hope you're also enjoying our look back at the March 17th, 1985 house show from Madison Square Garden. And, of course, coming out of the break, as always, Scott Criscolo is our little pop culture corner. The song you hear under us was #1 in the country this week in 1985, and I just can't fight this feeling anymore, Scott. Can you tell me a little bit about REO Speedwagon at this time?
REO Speedwagon, one of my favorite bands when I first started really liking music, late 70s, early 80s. My brother had this album that this song was on was not a great album. This was really the only hit. It was probably really their last hit. The really good album came out 4 years earlier called High Infidelity, and it had some great songs on it. Keep on Loving You. Oh, that's Machine Gun Kelly. We don't care about him. Take It on the Run, and a bunch of other great songs. But this is probably their biggest hit, and they do it at all their concerts. I saw them a few years ago, but this was like their swan song as a viable pop artists, because the rest of this top 10 is loaded with heavyweights. And number 2, a song we talked about last week. That was on the top 10 in February. The Heat Is On by Glenn Frey. JR, we talked about...
That's not even a good song. How the fuck was that number 2?
What, The Heat Is On? The Heat Is On. Yeah, the heat is on. Then number 3, we were talking about our girl in January, Miss the Virgin herself. Well, like she really was. Like a virgin, Madonna. But guess what was number 3 this week, JR? She's back in it. And it became her nickname. Material Girl. was number 3.
There you go.
Number 4, moving up, California Girls by David Lee Roth. Number 5. No, that's just a Gigolo.
I know.
That's late. It'll get there. Great song, though. One More Night, Phil Collins. What do you think? That's right up your alley. A little yacht rockish there.
Yeah. If it's not on the Yacht Rock channel, I don't consider it yacht rock.
It's not. Yeah, it was not yacht rock. This is past. That's post yacht rock. Phil Collins was definitely not yacht rock.
No
Number
interest.
6.
And I not interested.
Number 6, Too Late for Goodbyes by Julian Lennon. Yes, his kid. Number 7,
did he ever do anything else, Julian Lennon?
He did a song called Valat, which is the title track of the album this song is on. Yeah, The Sandlot, yes. It's killing me, Smalls. Yeah, that's number 6. Number 7, Giante dropped a few spots. Careless Whisper by Wham at 7. You. Lover Girl by Tina Marie. I can be your lover girl. Was number 8. Number 9, Private Dancer by Tina Turner. Moving up 6 spots. Private Eyes a few years earlier. And number 10, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Relax. Relax. Don't do it. So there's your top 10 of the Billboard pop charts.
What is an REO Speedwagon?
I don't know, but the logo is like a hood ornament thing. I think it's supposed to be like I don't know. They've been around since the early 70s, so God only knows.
So they just drove around in a wagon?
They drove around in a wagon and kept saying, REO! I don't know. Nothing great in movies, so we'll skip that. The NCAA tournament was going on. The big, let's put it this way, the biggest movie that made money that week, $385,000 for a movie called Sylvester. What is that? I don't think it's
the Pussycat?
These are the Puttycat or Sly's biopic. I'm sure it was neither.
Sylvester.
In college basketball, JR, we were in the second round of the NCAA tournament going on in 1985. Very quickly, I will fire off who was going to the Sweet 16 because one of the regionals, JR, was in your backyard, Providence Civic Center. So here was your Sweet 16. They were completed on that day. Georgetown, Loyola of Illinois, Georgia Tech, St. John's, Kentucky, North Carolina State, Alabama, Villanova, Maryland, Auburn, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Louisiana Tech, Boston College, and Memphis State. And, of course, next time we'll talk about college sports on the Pop Culture Report. Of course, as we all know, Villanova upset Georgetown in the national championship at Rupp Arena in Kentucky. So,
of a year for Louisiana Tech. Weren't they in the top 10 or whatever last time we talked? Or
yes, they were. You know why?
Whatever.
No, they were 10th in the country because you know who was on that team? The mailman.
George Gervin.
No, George Gervin. No.
Sylvester, 1985 American family drama film, directed by Tim Hunter, starring Richard Farnsworth and Melissa Gilbert. Movie nominated for Young Artist Award in 1986. A young woman called Charlie cares for a captured wild horse and helps turn him into a champion jumper. So I'm guessing that Sylvester's the horse.
Oh, I guess
one of the horses, hang on, because Rotella may have bankrolled this movie. One of the horses to play Sylvester was the Grey Goose. His handler, Kilwan's doubled for Gilbert in the action shots at the Kentucky Horse Park.
Can we train him? That is fine.
3 songs by the...
Uh-huh. Well, I thought you were going to say the way the D'Amato said it. We're going to train a bunch of wild hooers.
That's another Sylvester. 3 songs by the Textones heard in the film. Number 1 is To Survive, The Matter of Time, and It's Okay. 104-minute runtime, if you want to revisit it after the show.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure it's on Netflix instant. The rest, there was 3 other movies, but none of them made any money, so we'll just skip them. 8 games in the NBA that day.
Lost out to Sylvester.
I know, nothing beats Sylvester. The other movies were called Camila, DEFCON 4, and Secret Places. Don't know what any of those are. In the NBA, there were 8 games that day. The really only notable thing, Larry Bird, 48 at the Garden that night. As the Celtics beat the Rockets 134-120. Same teams are leading the divisions as the last time. Celtics, Bucks, Nuggets, and Lakers leading the 4 divisions. And only one quick NHL note. There were a bunch of games, but the reason, JR, that this house show is a day show, a matinee, is because I got to kick everybody out, get rid of the ring, drop the ice, because the Rangers were playing that night. And they ended up beating the Devils 7-3. Also on that day, our Whale beat the Penguins 4-3.
Don't let Sylvester take you to a secret place. With all the horses are.
With all the wild hooers. So there is your pop culture report, JR, for the week of March 17th, 1985.
All right, what up next?
What up next? What up? Let's go to probably one half of our double main event, and that is a big six-man tag, JR. And this is another match that perplexes me when we go next Monday, 2 weeks from now. Well, when we go next Monday doing our show, to 2 weeks from this show, as to why a couple of guys are not on there. Who's in this six-man tag?
I can't fight this feeling. So we have Andre the Giant, who we've discussed, the Junkyard Dog, and Jimmy Superfly Snuka, taking on Big John Studd, our buddy Ken Patera, and Jesse the Body Ventura. For most wrestling fans, heard the masterful commentary of Jesse Ventura beside Gorilla Monsoon on Saturday mornings and pay-per-view. But before his commentary days, Ventura had a distinguished wrestling career. Born James George Janos, Minneapolis, Minnesota, after serving in the U.S. Navy SEALs in Vietnam, alongside Charlie Fulton, began his career in wrestling in 1975, taking on the persona of Jesse Ventura. In the late 70s, Ventura came back to his home area of Minneapolis to wrestle for the AWA, teamed with Adrian Adonis to form the East-West Connection, winning the AWA Tag Team titles in July of 80. Holding them for nearly a year. Shortly after losing the belts, the team moved to the WWF and were managed by Freddie Blassie. Ventura's in-ring career came to an end September 1984 after he began developing blood clots in his lungs, which he claims are a result of exposure to Agent Orange in Vietnam. His attempted comebacks in 85 and 86 were cut short before settling into the commentary role on a full-time basis for the company. I'm surprised they never had a wrestler, Agent Orange. There must have been one somewhere, right? Like in Memphis or something. I'm sure they had.
Oh yeah, definitely Continental or
right.
AWA.
Fantastic heel team filled with arrogance and douchiness. Got easy to hate and admire at the same time, I thought. Super over face team as well. Megastars, loaded bout. I mean, this is one of the matches I was referring to when I said that this show felt almost bigger than the war to settle the score in some ways. I mean, this match is fucking loaded. And we have it here, signing the main event. So Studd bails out to the floor, dodges Andre as things settle down and open with Patera and the dog. JYD slugs away and hits a big back body drop before going to work on the arm. Andre tags into a big pop and he kicks and headbutts away. Studd tries to come in, but Andre catches him and rams their heads together and boots Patera down. Dog tags back in and uses his head to send Patera scurrying to the floor. Down the aisle, Patera and Studd bail again as Andre charges him. Patera returns to the ring and traps JYD in the corner, where he gets triple teams until Andre makes a save. Everything breaks down from there, ending with Andre rattling Patera and Studd together again. Ventura works over Dog during the chaos, and the heels dominate until Ventura hurts his hand on Dog's head, leading to a Junkyard Dog comeback. Snuka tags into a big pop as well and beats on Ventura as Jesse goes to the eyes, allowing Patera to choke away from the apron. Ventura stumbles through a really ugly-looking chop, and then he falls down, and then tags in Studd as Andre looks on. Studd gets a near fall, goes to a bear hug, but Andre breaks it up. Patera tags in with another takedown for 2, and then hooks on a bear hug as well and runs him hard into the corner. Ventura steps in, and he grabs another bear hug, but JYD breaks that up. I thought it was pretty cool with the heel team all taking turns, showing off their power, all using the bear hugs. Studd gets the tag, catches Snuka into a bear hug as well. This time Snuka claps the ears to break free and tags into Andre. Andre comes in and clobbers Studd as the crowd pops, but Patera hops in and breaks things up, allowing Studd to tag Ventura. Andre stops Jesse cold and plants him with a big boot. Snuka tags and hits Superfly Splash for the win. Andre goes right at Studd and slams hard into him, and Patera with a ramrod in the corner, eventually running them all off. It was a good finish, and the crowd loved it. It was a fun match. It never lagged. Everyone kept tagging in and out. Guys are jumping in and out of the ring. Chaotic. It was a good touch with the heel showing off all their power. Andre was a madman, constantly charging Studd, really building up the Mania match perfectly. The match itself, just, in a vacuum, was decent, but the heat and the storyline and Andre just being maniacal really added some extra oomph to it all. And I went 2 stars.
I went 2.5. This match is fantastic. And Studd is just a fucking beast. He's probably, again, another guy that's just one of my favorite mid-'80s heels. I mean, he's just so fucking smug. I mean, it's tremendous. He's a Bobby guy. There's certain heels that Vince did a great job in 84, 85 of pairing off with the right manager. I don't think Studd would have worked well with anybody else except Bobby. And because they're one and the same, just so smug. And Patera's just this, pompous asshole. And then Jesse's just Jesse. He's just, he's pure gold anyway. And then you have this great loaded babyface team of big-time stars. And Andre, I think what made this match better, even better for me, was that Andre was not his typical kind of stoic, methodical self. If you remember, JR, we did the I don't know if we've gotten to it in our network adventures, but have you watched and anybody who's listening, if any of you have not watched the TNT when Vince pretty much baited Andre into putting up his career in the match in 2 weeks with Stud. I thought Andre was going to knock Vince out.
Right. It must have been the week of this or whatever, because they talk about his career being on the line on this show.
Right.
And that's pretty much where Andre accepts it. But yeah, that was fantastic. It was like between that and this, it's like the most fired up I've ever seen Andre. I mean, he was just like livid and ready to go. Vince really just keeps goading him, and and he fucking snaps at Vince. And then here, he's just a madman. Like, I thought they really did a nice job escalating the thing with John Studd, because he just keeps going at him and Patera constantly, even after the bell, showing how pissed he is still at the head shaving, the raping of the dignity. But yeah, I thought it was a really great scene. The match itself was fine. What do you think of Jesse? I thought he looked awful. He's stumbling all over himself. Like he really had like zero fucking balance or anything going on. That chop was terrible. He just almost fell over himself trying to do it.
Yeah, it was obvious that Jesse probably hadn't been in the ring in quite a number of weeks.
He had been trained by REO, it looked like, in this match.
You know who could have saved Jesse? Rene Goulet. Yeah, I mean, he was not good.
I mean, if he didn't get the blood clots, what do you think his ceiling could have been?
I don't know. Maybe a tag.
I mean, could he have faked it in the WWF where they didn't really care about work rate? Like, do you think he could have? Did he have the charisma and the personality to at least fake it enough to maybe get maybe a short feud with Hogan or something?
Maybe, because it's Jesse.
Right.
Cuts a good promo. He's a top flight stick man. So yeah, absolutely. But here, I mean, he's just a fumbling. I mean, he's a mess.
Snook almost felt like overshadowed in the whole thing, amazingly enough.
And JYD, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're right. Andre really dominated everything.
Andre owned this.
Yeah.
Andre, which makes you wonder what the fuck happened to Patera. Because as we'll see in 2 weeks.
It's weird.
What the fuck happened to him? Because I don't think the whole McDonald's Saito thing was for a few months.
Well, we talked about it. It happened, but he hadn't been, I think we talked about this last week, he hadn't been arraigned, he hadn't gotten,
I guess
he didn't get the book thrown at him yet. It had already happened, but it didn't. I mean, he's around for a while into 85. Yeah, he doesn't.
It did.
They don't come calling him for the Hooskow for a while.
Because, I mean, he is so integral to this whole story.
Let's see. Yeah,
but it's all about...
right into April. All throughout April, he's all over the place,
Yeah.
He definitely drops off, though. He's in a lot of, just matches with nobodies. He has a couple of handicap matches, him and Stud against Andre, but he does a lot of... He fused Podolski and a few other stuff here and there. So, I mean, he's still out there, but yeah, it's weird how it's... I mean... we'll see when we talk about Mania if they even. I feel like they don't even really talk about him. It's like it didn't even exist.
They don't.
Yeah.
No. I love Bud. I almost called him Bud and Stundy. Stud and not Stud.
Bud and Kelly Bundy.
Stud and Ted Bundy. Stud and Bud Bundy. Stud and Andre they're on a collision course. You could argue that it's this. I mean, I said it at War to Settle the Score that the whole Cindy, Wendy versus, Moulin, Lanny Kai was probably the number 2 feud in the company. But Stud and Andre is there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there. You could argue that this might be the number 2 match on the card after the main event.
Well, I think you look at the match structure at Mania, that'll tell the story. So I think they saw it probably as third from the top. But
yeah, I mean, it's boss. I just love Stud. Just a smug fucking douche. A tremendous heel. And like I said, Vince did a good job of pairing off which heels are better suited for certain managers. Stud fit Bobby. They're both arrogant dicks who are there to cash the checks and just make everybody just, kowtow to them. Like, I don't think Stud would have worked with Jimmy Hart or even your favorite.
Is that like Camel Toe?
Camel Toe. David Sammartino's got a camel toe.
It's
in
Kowtow, isn't it?
No, it's Kowtow.
Are you sure?
It could be either.
Tanaka and Kowtow?
Kowtow?
I'm pretty sure it's
Kowtow!
I'm pretty sure it's Kowtow.
Kowtow. I like camel toe. Oh, it was at Sylvester. David Sammartino's Kowtow in Sylvester. Camel toe in Sylvester.
It looks like Kowtow based on Wikipedia.
Damn it.
Kowtow and Tanaka.
Kowtow. Okay, Kowtow.
I'm gonna write into letters from kayfabe and ask about Kowtow and Tanaka.
But I mean, Andre and Stud are the top of the card right now, next to the main event. Next to the the Hogan and T stuff.
Fine
tremendous.
motherfucker.
Oh yeah, exactly. Paid for by the following. No Alfred on the show or none of the other guys floating around the back. Okay, so babyfaces win. Stud almost gets slammed.
Uh-huh.
Sarah actually saves him. Andre had him scooped and ready to drop. Okay. Our penultimate match before our main event. A guy who I need to apologize about because I had him on the wrong from the wrong hometown. Against a huge debut, JR. Big debut here. Big debut. And a guy who'd be on for the next few years.
Terry Gibbs is that icon. Made his WWF debut back at MSG on our first show in January 1985. Throughout the mid-'80s, Gibbs would be a jobber to the Stars. Rare to find a jobber that racks up a winless record in their career. Wax up.
The camel toe.
But that is what you have here with Gibbs. From 85 to 88, recorded a masterful 0-69 record in singles and tag competition. So there you go. The one and only Terry Gibbs. Ricky Steamboat. MSG return after a 5-year absence when he spent that time in Jim Crockett Promotions. We'll talk more about his history next week. So, big MSG debut for Steamboat. Only been around for a couple weeks at this point. Steamboat looks great. Gibbs eschews a handshake and kicks away, taking the fight right to Steamboat. Steamboat reverses a whip into a backdrop and then gets in some offense between Gibbs is stalling. Gorilla and Gene discuss Mania some more as Gibbs keeps playing cat and mouse until Steamboat finally cuts him down with a chop and then locks him in an armbar. Gibbs goes to the eyes and shoves Steamboat hard to the mat. And then to the floor. Steamboat battles back in, but Gibbs cuts him down and then slams him before hitting an atomic drop. Gibbs keeps hammering away, but Steamboat chops at him, breaks his momentum. Steamboat elbows him down and hits a chop off the top rope and finishes him with a nice high cross body. It was a nifty little match. Both guys look good. Gibbs had some good heel offense and sneering going on, in addition to all of his stalling tactics. Steamboat was smooth and fluid as always, just cruises through the match with easy aggression. I could have taken another 10 minutes of these guys, honestly. That's how much I enjoyed it. I could have went for like a longer heat segment too. That was really good. I went a 1.5 stars.
The 0-69 Terry Gibbs, I must apologize. He is not from my fine hometown of New Haven. There's another jobber that'll come up down the line. Terry Gibbs is from Tampa, Florida.
So Columbus, Ohio.
But there will be a jobber down the line that was from New Haven. JR, some people may think that this was Ricky Steamboat's first ever match at Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm.
It is not.
I know, I said that earlier.
Do you remember the date?
No. 5 years.
Well, kowtow to it and finish it then. April 21st, 1980.
5 years.
Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood defeated Tor Cameltow, and Bulldog Brower at 13-11 when Youngblood pinned Brower after Steamboat dropped his partner on top of him from a gorilla. They dropped his partner's pants on top of him from a gorilla press position. Oh, a little British Bulldog action there. So there you go. So this was not Ricky Steamboat's debut, of course. His return from a 5-year absence. Mean Gene must have left because he didn't talk until literally the pin. So poor gorilla sounded like he had to do this match pretty much on his own.
Yeah, he was going to do an interview or just was ill.
Yeah, or he was trying to mack that chick, one or the other.
Right. Fine motherfucker.
So do you have David Sammartino's camel toe? Yeah, it was a solid enough match. It's Steamboat, still in his NWA gear, the blue tights.
It was a good little spot. It makes him seem important. Put him right here before the main. He's so smooth. Just so everything he does, he just cruises along. Nothing ever looks forced or herky jerky. Everything's just there.
Yep.
Just comes easy.
Yep. It does. And if you can make Terry Gibbs look halfway decent, you've accomplished something in your life.
Oh, what's wrong with the Gibbster?
0-69? I wonder why.
Camel toe.
And camel toe. Time for our main event. A rematch, JR, from the exceptional Intercontinental Championship match we had 2 months ago. It's on Chad Campbell's very high list.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have,
I went 4 stars. Yes. So Tito Santana versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. Intercontinental Lumberjack title match. Playing off, of course, what happened in January where we had the count-out finish. So, nice build. Crowd is fired up. Big-time match to close the show. High expectations. The crowd's jacked. Impressive group of Lumberjacks as well. Helps amp up the feel. Fink, by the way, has a green bow tie for St. Patrick's Day. I don't know if you noticed that. I mentioned it earlier. Valentine clubs Santana off the bell thanks to Jimmy Hart's meddling. Hammer keeps slugging away with fists and elbows and hooking a chin lock. Santana comes back with a huge clothesline and kicks away until Hammer goes to regroup with the heels. Steamboat rushes over and shoves him back in, pissing off Valentine. And by the way, I don't know if we mentioned, obviously this is his debut, so Jimmy Hart now managing Greg Valentine. Great promo on TNT. You can check out the adventure for our notes on that, by the way. I thought they really worked well together. And we'll talk about this when it stops being this way. Hammer, fans that started watching like in the late 80s, Hammer seemed just like an old man, like not cool at all. If you watch him in like 84 and 85, he's wicked fucking cool with the sunglasses and the kind of the edgy t-shirts and getting the massage from his wife. It was, like he was actually a really cool guy. Like, by the late 80s, he's looking ugly old bastard. But at this point, like he seemed like cool with Jimmy Hart, the two music guys. And it was kind of neat. Hammer backs off, but Tito keeps on coming, blocking a kick with an atomic drop, followed by a knee lift. Hammer again goes outside, but gets shoved back in by the faces. Hammer catches Tito with a shot and then starts to lean on him, but Tito battles up, leading to a slugfest. Tito wins that and keeps the pressure on. Valentine escapes a figure 4 attempt by bailing to the floor and gets pitched back in. Tito's all over him, cracking him with a forearm from the middle rope. Tito cracks Hammer with a right hand, leading to Valentine slithering outside and trying to escape, but he gets caught and tossed back in, and the crowd is just eating all of this up. Hammer finally takes control and goes to his hard-hitting offense using his forearms to grab near falls. Hammer hooks a leg lock as the crowd rallies Tito, who's able to punch his way out of the hold. Hammer pops up and kicks Tito in the knee and cuts him back down. Hammer knocks Tito to the floor, who's protected by the faces as they check on him and gently help him into the ring. Hammer pulls him inside and clubs his chest before going to the middle rope and hitting an elbow to the head. Hammer loads up the figure 4, but stops to slap Tito across the face, and Tito kicks free and gets a small package for a good near fall. Tito fights up from his knees into a heavy slugfest until Hammer just clobbers him with a huge uppercut. These guys are just awesome. Santana collapses in the corner, but uses his legs to catch a charging Hammer, propels him into the buckle. The crowd is just going batshit as Santana hammers away, putting Valentine on the ropes, and this time he has nowhere to go like he did back in January. Hammer tries to escape, but Dog blocks him and Tito drags him back inside. Hits a vertical suplex for 2. Hammer blocks the figure 4 and rolls to the floor again, but he gets trapped and pushed back inside. Tito drills Hammer with a forearm to the face and gets the figure 4 as the crowd is just exploding, but Jimmy Hart ties up the referee. John Studd reaches in, pulls Hammer to the ropes to force the break. Tito gets pissed and loses his cool, goes after Studd, but that cost him as Hammer clobbers him from behind, and then Tito survives that. They trade more right hands. Hammer dodges the right hand and hits the ropes, and the two collide hard and hit heads, and Hammer just falls on Tito for the win with them both pretty much unconscious. Another fantastic match with these guys. The chemistry is just through the roof. The stipulation was really well used, very well used as well. Playing right into the storyline, leveraged well by Valentine, how he kept going out there regardless of the situation because that's the strategy. The finish was good too, keeps Tito looking strong. Hammer escapes to head to Mania to face Junkyard Dog. I don't know, maybe a hair behind the January match. Still super fun and really a strong main event. I went 4 stars again. Splitting hairs with this in January, both are fantastic.
I give this 4 stars as well. The two of them they know how to dance. And one thing you got to give them both credit for, they know how to adapt to their surroundings. You know, January was just a straight up one-on-one war. Here, you knew that we had the added stip of these guys around the ring. And they knew how to use that added weapon of these guys to their arsenal getting them into part of their chemistry, and end up having another fantastic match. Greg Valentine is a beast. Like you said, I agree with you 100%. He just had this cool kind of thing about him, the TNT where his wife's fucking oiling him up, and I mean it's pretty awesome. He really is. And Tito's just crazy over. I mean, you could argue he's maybe the number 2 babyface after Hogan, or at least the top 2 or 3.
I mean, I guess we'll save it for Mania. Why we don't get the rematch? We can dissect it there, but God, coming off.
I know. Why didn't they do Valentine and Dog here,
right,
and do the lumberjack match?
Yeah.
At Mania.
I don't know. I got some theories. We'll talk about it next week, but it's
Okay.
I mean, it was definitely worthy because it's a great match, and I mean, just again, the chemistry with these guys is just unbelievable, just next level. What they got going on here. So I really, really, really enjoyed this. I thought it capped off. I can't say it's a great show, but it had great moments, and it really elevates this feud in the IC title when on a show with Hogan and Piper doing their thing, with Andre the Giant, in his mega feud with John Studd being showcased, this closes the show. That's a big deal. That really puts this over, and they earned it with their work and with the feud. I mean, it's been great,
no doubt.
So yeah, I mean, I really, really liked this match a lot.
Yep, I give it 4 stars too. That match, I think it was. I had to pan down to look for something else, but let's see. This match was 10:22.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be right.
No, it was. I mean, it was, but it flies too because they just beat the shit out of each other and never stops. And it made a couple of tapes and DVDs. It's on the Most Unusual Matches tape, the Greatest Wrestling Star of the '80s DVD, History of the IC Title DVD. So, I mean, it's a match that's had a lot of exposure.
Just to look back, the 6-man tag was 11:55, and Steamboat Terry Gibbs was 4:36. I just felt longer than 10:22, and in a good way.
Right. No, and they packed a shitload into that 10 minutes. So
yeah, and it's tremendous.
All right,
so
and the Lumberjacks.
Yeah,
I was saying the Lumberjacks are pretty much everyone on the card.
Yeah, exactly. Just empty everybody, including Terry Gibbs and his cool slick back Elvis hair. It's pretty funny.
But no, yeah, great match to end the show. All right, so let's do some awards.
The awards.
Best award goes to. So match of the night, I think easily Tito Valentine.
Yes,
again.
for the second time, Valentine and Tito. Yes, absolutely. Second time in 3 months.
Worst match of the night, I had Goulet Barrio. I know you had that a little slightly better than I did, but I just thought Barrio was fucking atrocious and had nothing here to add any benefit to that match at all. So I mean, there's other blah matches in the show, but to me that was the worst, mainly on the back of Barrio.
That SD Jones Neidhart match was not good, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on that, and I'll go with you with Barrio and Rene Goulet, but let's hope that's the last in 7 years that we'll have to see Jim Neidhart wrestle a singles match, because it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible.
Wow, really? Go watch it again. I don't know. I like the. I thought they really beat the piss out of each other.
I don't know. I mean, I liked SD Jones, but that match is just this match is just terrible. Barrio was bad too, but I thought Neidhart was just atrocious. But I'll roll with you with Barrio and Goulet. I'll give you that one. MVP.
I went with.
I got a nominee.
Okay.
I like Mr. T.
Yeah, I went with him and Piper.
Yeah, I mean their byplay was outstanding.
Yeah,
because T finally had a chance to shine on the stage himself, and he hit a home run with it.
Yeah, I thought they both were equally 50-50 in that. Like, everyone else was a bit player, but I thought the two of them were just on point and completely sold that match and that show on their own. Just the two of them going back and forth.
Exactly. No doubt about it.
All right, a spoiler award for the worst worker of the night. Mine's a tie between Barrio and Jesse. I thought Jesse was atrocious. I'm fine not giving it to Jesse because of his charisma and because of how fun that match was, but I think he warrants mention as being one of the bottom 2 guys on the show in the ring.
Well, you know who I think the worst worker of the night was, but we'll make it unanimous. I'll roll with Barrio.
Okay. I mean, he was
but Jim Neidhart's pretty close.
I thought Jesse was worse than Neidhart on this evening. That chop was like, I mean, that's like when you watch Tough Enough, the first round of guys before they get cut. Like, that's what that looked like. It looked like a guy like Danny Bonaducci on Hulk Hogan's Championship Wrestling.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad that chop was. Like, Butterbean pulled it off better. I missed that show. Dustin Diamond.
Okay.
Working the big gimmick.
That was a good show. Todd Bridges. Did he win? Rod win?
Rodman won.
Who won that first season?
Rodman.
Todd Bridges should have won.
All right, best moments. I went with the end of the Piper's Pit.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. How could you not? Although I'll give a second honorable mention to Andre. Just kind of, I mean, you want to talk about a guy in the palm of his hand. You have Stud turned over. He's turned over. Oh, fucking Patera, you dick. You know, it's like Andre knew that he had the crowd in his hands right there.
Yeah. No, I agree. That was an awesome moment. It was. Yeah. The end of the pit to me meant so much more.
Oh, it absolutely did. Oh, no, absolutely did. Absolutely did. The Mr. USA Award. I think it has to go to the Camel Toe himself. Glad we found a new nickname for him. The old Camel Toe himself, David Sammartino. Because I can't think of anybody else on this night that was
really
overly.
I got two guys. I got two guys that I think put old Bubble Ass to shame.
Patera?
No. Rocky Johnson. And,
yeah, he was pretty tight, yeah.
And Paul Orndorff was fucking jacked in those tiny shorts.
With those little chick tennis shorts on.
It was ripped and cut. So I'd go with either of them over Sammartino.
I'll say Rocky Johnson, only because he was bigger.
Yeah, he was. He was huge. Okay, and let's see. My overall score of this was a 5 out of 10.
I will also give it a 5.
Okay.
I'll also give it a 5. Right down the middle.
It was there was a lot going on, and it was, I think on a whole, you could argue it was a better show card-wise than more to settle the score, but, the matches didn't really deliver. Like, even that big six-man was kind of not great in the ring, but that on the back of the main event and the pit and the Andre moment is worth getting it to a 5 to me. And the Bundy squash, too, which is, he's an MVP, MVP candidate as well for that. On a softer night, he may win just for that squash.
What's going to be interesting for us, for you and I, is the post-Mania house shows when we have no show to build anymore.
Right.
I'd be curious to see how they start structuring these shows again without Mania to lean on.
Yep.
But so we'll see if they could stay 5s and 6s. I know I know some of you are probably thinking we're being a little generous, but they are building to the show that's going to, put us over the top.
They're 2-hour shows, so if you got a couple of good bits in there and everything else isn't awful, it's it's enough. All right, so why don't we wrap up? Okay. Scott, I believe you got a main event this week, right?
Yes, I do. It's going to be a short one. We got a very busy week this week, so it's just going to be me and Mr. J. Arsenio Diamato are going to preview Roadblocks. Just the two of us. Just a quick Roadblock preview, and then we'll do a big main event to end the year, recapping 2016 in wrestling. So big show coming up in a month, but this week we will do a quick Roadblock preview.
All right, and last week we had a couple of big shows as well. Clotheslines and Headlines. I was not there, but Glenn Butler stepped in and did a great job as always, and be sure to check that out. They had a great conversation around the Cruiserweight division, good Ring of Honor talk, and lots of other stuff going on there. Also, they talked to Linda McMahon's Senate appointment, whatever, not Senate, cabinet appointment.
Cabinet appointment,
yeah. So be sure to check that out as well. So plenty to enjoy there. And Letters from Kayfabe, somehow they topped me as a guest, Scott, by getting the, many argue to be the greatest wrestler in the world right now, Chris Hero, stepped into the Letters from Kayfabe studio.
You may never come back.
Joined Parvin Allen. I don't know. I thought it was a little bit better than Chris. Yeah, I'm like it. He did an awesome job. Be sure to listen to that. It was a lot of fun. The whole show was fun. It's a quick listen to. It's only an hour. This was like the longest one because he was on. It's an hour and a half, but it's a real fun listen. So check that out as well. And then Scott, we should be back next week. There may be a little something that throws us off, but as of now, we're planning to be here Monday night for WrestleMania. Our first pay-per-view event after this run of house shows. So lots to go on, lots to enjoy, lots to listen, lots to read. Be sure to check out everything PlayStation.com. Holiday season, of course, just a couple weeks remain. Be sure to use PlayStation.com/Amazon for all of your online shopping. Help us out just a little bit. And Scott, 2 weeks' time on Christmas Eve will be our annual Christmas special, and it is a doozy. I can already tell you right now.
It's a big one.
It's going to be a happening, as some may say. So
bigger, better, snowier.
All right, for Scott, I'm Justin, and I'm about to pass out, so we're out. We'll talk to you next week from the guy.
Camel toe, can't fight this camel toe anymore.